Yeah, we've been on tour. We've been to Europe 3 or 4 times
Yeah.
now, and we went to Australia right before the pandemic hit. So we got Australia and New Zealand in, and we ventured into our own music recently. So we just put out an original EP in January, and we just did some videos last week, masks on, and yeah, so we're just moving forward, and it's really fun. It's a really fun project.
Yeah, I was listening to some of it this morning while I was doing barrel work, and it absolutely set the mood for flipping barrels upside down, and it got me pumped and got me charged. So,
Yeah.
Great, great.
so setting the stage for what we're doing today, for those of you at home, we're going to be tasting both the Schweiger 2014 Cabernet Sauvignon along with the 2013 dedication. And we thought it would be fun. At Schweiger Vineyards, we use Gabriel-Glas, which is a very unique shape, a different thought in wine glass. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But Timpe with Gabriel-Glas was kind enough to send both of us the Alpha decanter that Gabriel-Glas makes. So before we get down into this, why don't you guys go ahead and pour about half of that bottle of dedication into the decanter to let it open up.
All
And
right.
later in the show, we'll taste decanted and undecanted side by side, and we can talk more about that. If you guys aren't familiar with decanting wines and the whys and the hows, we can get down to that. Also, for those of you watching from home, we've got Paula, my wife, checking the chats. So if you're on Zoom, feel free to type in any content, questions or comments into the chat menu. And if you're on Facebook Live, leave comments on Facebook Live, and as it's appropriate, Paula will share those with us. But to get us kicked off, you guys want to play something for everybody out there?
Yeah. So,
Yeah, sure. We'll play. We'll play a part of a song.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3.
They told you, hey, now you do what they told you. Now you do what they told you.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got to ask, so before you guys met 3 years ago, both had music careers separately?
Yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah. I've been playing jazz saxophone for many years, studied music at different conservatories, and basically playing since I was 8 years old. And been living in New York since 2004, and just kind of developed a career of just meeting different people, playing with a lot of different bands, and just like working through the New York scene. And then we were lucky enough. I was introduced to Brad through a mutual friend of ours, a friend Danny Giannacucci, who's an amazing trumpet player from California. Um, and so he kind of connected us through the project that Brad was working on,
Yeah.
and which go ahead. Here we
Yeah.
are.
Yeah. Similar. I've been playing guitar since I guess I started when I was 12, and I sort of have have gone back and forth from science and music. So both those paths have kind of had a through line. So I toured a lot when I was in my 20s, and then I went back to school in behavioral medicine, and I started a healthcare company. And then, but I just kept finding myself back in music and played throughout the whole time. And I guess shortly after I sold the healthcare company, I was in a project, and Andy and Mariel, who plays trombone, joined us on horns. And yeah, then about 2 years after that, we started this thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it was very natural. It was very natural. Just kind of like, hey, you want to do this? And like Brad said, it was just like, and at first I remember being like, this sounds hard, but as a horn player, just to like continually play bass lines, that wasn't something that I was used to doing, and so it was just like, but it was really fun. So.
And I've like picked harder and harder songs. So once we got into Tool and some of the progressive rock, I was like, what are you doing to me?
Right.
And now his lungs are like giant. Yeah.
Well, that's funny
like
because
90 minutes long, right? And so they have to just have at it for straight 90 minutes. You play, right, Andy?
yeah, well, that's the funny thing is I primarily was alto and soprano most of my music career,
Cool.
and about 12, 13 years ago, I was called up to play oboe. And suddenly after doing oboe for a band for about 2 years, my lung capacity was such that bari sax all of a sudden was a lot easier to play and a different style. And it's, in high school, nobody wanted to play bari sax because they never got the solos. They never got the fun lines. And in my late 30s, I suddenly realized, wait a minute, no, bari sax is the sexy cello of the sax world.
That's what it is. Yep.
And every year around Christmas, this music educator down in San Jose puts together a saxophone Christmas, a San Jose Saxmas. And I think the record he's set so far is 240 sax players playing original arrangements from everything from soprillo down to bass sax.
Crazy.
Oh,
And
cool.
occasionally there's a cat who brings a contrabass sax.
Nice.
That's a lot of saxophone.
Yeah, and the worst thing is most of the soprano players are high schoolers, and you get 20 sopranos together all at the high school age. There's no keeping those cats in tune.
Yeah, well, it's tough enough to keep 20 professionals in tune on soprano. So.
Awesome. Well, hey, you mentioned prog rock. I got to throw something out at you. And I hope this doesn't sound, sometimes people approach me and say, hey, Andy, why don't you do a Zinfandel? Why don't you do this? And I'm like, because it doesn't fit with our program. But I was listening to the album, the most recent album, I forget, it was number 2.
Yep.
And yeah. And so when I was done with that, all of a sudden I had this mood and I put on Genesis, The Lamb Lies Down on Broadway.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I was thinking, wait a minute, nobody has ever tried to cover this album.
Yeah.
And my brain started going, wait, replace all the synthesizer solos with horn section.
Yeah.
So that's your freebie today. Brass Against is a project covering Lamb Lies Down on Broadway.
Love it. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Full on prog rock.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many, right? I have such a laundry list of songs that, and we do, that we want to do, and sky's the limit, and getting into in some of those Peter Gabriel solo records, like there's just so many ideas that I've had. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, why don't we taste a little bit of wine and
Can we try the
have
Zinfandel?
some fun? Very, very funny. Actually, we started a new project a few years ago. We had some acreage that we were transitioning out of Chardonnay, and I did have a few people suggest Zinfandel, and I didn't want to go there. And that's actually our new Pinot Noir vineyard, which is relatively unusual in our appellation. There's only one other ranch up here growing Pinot Noir, so we're pretty excited about that. But for those of you watching who are not familiar with Schweiger Vineyards, we're in what's known as the Spring Mountain District of Napa Valley. And we're going to start with our 2014 Cabernet today.
Wow.
Did you decant the Cabernet or dedication?
The dedication.
Oh, okay, let's start with the Cabernet. So leave what's in the decanter in the decanter.
Just throw that.
Gotcha. I have another glass, so that's good. So
Oh, Paula, can you please throw up the first slide that Megan made for us today to show people about the door prize as well while we're talking?
This one, right?
This
cab.
one, the 2014 Cabernet.
Sorry.
Right. Okay.
Right. Gotcha.
There's a meaning to my madness. We'll get there.
Oh, cool. Oh, nice.
So our friends at Gabriel-Glas, as I mentioned earlier today, have provided all the stemware and the decanters for Andrew and Brad. And later on in the show, we're going to be having a door prize where one of the people who pre-registered on Zoom are going to win this decanter as well as a glassware set. So thank you to all of our friends at Gabriel-Glas. And Paula, that's good for the slide until later, and we'll do the next one. But those of you who are not familiar with Schweiger Vineyards, we're in Napa County. We're at a 2,000-foot elevation, completely family-owned and operated. My dad and I do the farming together, and I'm the winemaker. So when I need help, my wife Paula and my kids jump in and help me in the barrel room. And you know, it's a labor of love. We only do about 5,000 cases a year, but primarily Cabernet. So enjoy. Love to hear what you guys think. And
Before tasting, I just want to also endorse the glassware, Gabriel-Glas. Yeah, I mean the pictures, they look beautiful, but holding it, right? It's pretty surreal. It's amazing. It feels so good. It looks so good.
It feels very fragile.
Right.
It does.
And they actually, instead of being lead crystal, these are titanium crystal. So when we were first evaluating and thinking about removing Riedel from our tasting room, we picked them up and said, these are going to break the first time somebody drops them. I'm not encouraging this, but I've actually dropped them on concrete and had them bounce and caught them on the rebound.
I'm going to try it.
Yeah, right.
But, you know, while we're talking about the glass, the thing that's amazing to me is that the gentleman who came up with this shape and with this was working for another glass manufacturer. I won't say the name, but it rhymes with Fidel.
Yep.
And they make their money selling, here's a glass for Cabernet, here's a glass for Merlot, here's a glass for Pinot. And true wine aficionados who bought into this had cabinets filled with 80 different wine glasses. And it was more of a marketing ploy. And he stepped back and started his own company and said, wait a minute, I'm going to come up with a shape that enhances all wines. I mean, I'm willing to confess, I've been in a hotel room after a day of working the market and had a half bottle of wine. And you know what? I'm going to have some wine with my room service. And all I had was the paper cup you find in the hotel room. And sometimes you do what you got to do. But when you
that's fine.
When you really want to enjoy a nice glass of wine, having some good stemware to enjoy it with, and this lower bowl really helps concentrate the aroma so that when you put it to your nose, it's laser focused going into your nose.
Yeah.
So 2014, this is 97% Cabernet, 3% Merlot. The reason I had to say the dedication for later, dedication is our Bordeaux blend, and so it's going to be even more layered, a little bit more subtle and intricate than the Cabernet. So we're really going to see that open up in this decanter.
Okay.
What's the process of making this?
So, so how familiar are you guys with wine production? My wife often tells me, if you ask me what time it is, I'll tell you how to build a clock.
Right.
Yeah, right.
How much time do we have?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it is Zoom. We can go all night.
Sure. Right. Let's go for it. Yeah.
But so, you know, we're farming everything ourselves. A lot of wineries buy their fruit from other ranches. So it's all picked by hand. And for many wineries, it then sits by the side of the road until a truck can come along, pick it up, and deliver it to the winery. And our situation, my dad and I are driving tractors, shuttling it out of the vineyard, sometimes as little as 100 feet, right back into the winery. And I receive the fruit here. We destem it. We don't crush it because all your color and flavor is present in the skins. So we're just removing the stem, but when we're done, we wind up with a tank of almost all full berries. Some of the juice is liberated in the process. And by doing that, if you remember your basic geometry, you have more surface area in a sphere than you do in a plane. So by not crushing it, we're actually able to extract more color and more flavor into the wines. We then ferment it on those skins for about 7 to 10 days until the mouthfeel is to the point where I feel it's picked up a lot of flavor, it's picked up some color without getting too tannic, getting too astringent. You get that cotton mouth drying sensation. We don't want that.
Right.
After that, we press it off and it comes down here to the barrel room where I'm at. And we're aging for 3 years. Most Napa wineries are barrel aging 18 to 24 months. The reason for the extended aging is because barrels are naturally aerated. And in that time of barrel aging, the tannins, again, what causes the bitter cottonmouth sensation, become more complex. They become longer chains, and they become more elegant and more mouth-filling. So that's the nuts and bolts of it. And then when we're ready to bottle, I pump everything out of the barrels up the tank, and I have a mobile bottling line come, and we get it in bottles and hopefully send it off to everybody's homes.
Yes.
Great. Great.
This is exciting.
All right, shall we?
Yeah.
So for those of you at home who are familiar with Cabernet, of course, Spring Mountain District Cabernet, we've got a lot of that blackberry, ripe currant, along with some boysenberry, pomegranate, some plum tones. And aroma descriptors are very personal, guys. So if I'm saying something and you don't smell it and you smell something else, by any means, share.
Right.
You say cherry? Yeah.
Cherry, black cherry.
Like cherry? Yeah.
You know the Ben & Jerry's flavor, Cherry Garcia?
Yeah.
Yes.
Best.
That dark chocolate, the Bing Cherry.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask. It kind of has like a chocolatey,
Yeah.
almost a slight chocolate vibe.
Mhm.
Nice. Mm.
I'm going for it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So good.
It's so good. Like filling my mouth with like just flavor. Like I felt my entire tongue kind of explode. That's
Well,
a literal
Yeah.
explanation. It was really satisfying.
Well, and that's the fun thing about it is that, especially if you enjoy this with a meal, it's coating, it pairs well. Andrew mentioned earlier that you guys know Brian Newman.
Yeah.
And at the end of May, I did a show with Brian and Angie cooked an amazing flank steak. Well, it looked amazing.
Yeah.
It looked really good.
Yeah. I was
Yeah.
watching that one too. Amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
And it looked like a great food and wine pairing. So I've got to try that recipe, or who knows, when this is all over, maybe we'll just have a big party at the winery and all the guests we've had here, we'll just get together and have a large
Let's
jam
go.
session out in the lawn with a lot of wine.
Yes.
Yes. There have to be 240 soprano saxophonists. So.
No,
No,
thank
I'm
you.
kidding.
No. Yeah.
It's funny when I get together in a smaller ensemble and we'll play 20 sax players together, doing all these arrangements. And I will only play soprano if I'm the only soprano, so I don't have to worry about keeping in tune with somebody else.
Nice.
Yeah.
Have you been playing saxophone since you were a kid?
Yeah, I started when I was 9, and
Awesome.
kept through all through high school, all through college. Had the I'd say my career highlight was my freshman year of college. I got accepted into the Stanford Jazz Workshop when Stan Getz was the artist in residence.
Amazing.
And I'd say the most important musical lesson I ever learned from Stan was, well, other than the fact that one time in a bar when he threw a beer mug at Kenny G, that's a story for another time, followed with the words, Kenny G, you suck.
No, that's a story we want to hear right now.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so Stan took, so there were probably 40 or so sax players that, Stan would come by and give clinics, and then some of us he took a shine to, and so I probably got 4 or 5 hours one-on-one just hanging out with Stan, critiquing solos, constructive criticism. And I'd say the most important thing he told me was that, Andy, just because you have 16 bars of solo doesn't mean you have to fill every second of it. One of the most important notes you can have is silence.
Yeah.
Take a moment, use strategic breaths, bring in breaks. And actually, it's interesting, in our label design, I implemented that. Prior to 2006, our label was a little wider, but about half the height. And all the design elements on that label, the crest, the vineyard drawing, all the words were compressed. And when I met with the label designer, I said, hey, let's spread this out. Let's give everything its own room. So in a way, I took that musical lesson and applied it to graphic arts. But the Kenny G story. So the last night of Stanford Jazz Workshop, it was a jam session in a bar. I was only 18, and Stan vouched for me and got me in the door and had me sit on a bar stool next to him on the bar, and he bought me a beer. And we were just chatting, and he asked me what my career plans were, and I told him, well, I want to be a winemaker. And he was like, wow, that's, if you know Stan's history, he would go through periods of heavy drinking into drug use, into heavier drug use, and then come clean and stop using drugs and stop drinking. And then, his later years were just an up and down roller coaster. And so this was, I think, on an upward slide. I was 18, I couldn't tell drug use at the time, but I think he was primarily just enjoying alcohol. Yeah. And he was very interested about hearing me go into winemaking. And then they changed. It was an open mic jam session, and this one guy with curly hair goes up there with a soprano sax playing out the side of his mouth. And I'd seen the guy earlier in the week and rolled my eyes and said, oh, this guy. Yeah. And Stan's face just went livid. He goes, oh, this guy. Took his beer mug before the song even started and threw it, barely missed his, and said, Kenny, you suck. And what kind of last name is G anyway?
Wow. All right.
And Stan stood up, went to the stage, turned around and said, Schweiger, you're with me. And we go up on the stage, and he said, okay, you played Stolen Moments earlier this week? Okay, here we go. And so I got to do Stolen Moments on stage with Stan, with Rufus Reed on bass.
Oh, cool.
I forget who the pianist and drummer were, but it's somewhere. Unfortunately, my parents lost it and moved, but somebody took a black and white photo of Stan and I on stage. And in the foreground, it's just this classic jazz club photograph. In the foreground, you just see somebody's hand holding a cigarette with the smoke trailing up.
Oh, awesome.
That's cool.
And I'm like,
Kenny G.
Man.
Yeah. Kenny G in the background.
Yeah. Like, what did I do?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
This is my style.
Now I own Starbucks.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Joke's on you.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this is amazing with red meats. I mean, even grilled vegetables.
Yeah. How does it feel to accomplish your dreams? Because Stan asked you what do you want to do, and now you're doing it.
I'm doing it, and I'll tell you, it's every day is a new adventure. It's a new challenge because, I work with my father, and I view my job as to always push myself every year to get better. And sometimes I'll want to implement changes out in the vineyard or implement changes here in the winery, and my dad will say, well, we've made perfectly good wines doing it the old way. I'm like, yeah, but can we take good to better to great to, keep pushing that level of greatness? And so that's, my wife will attest to this. There's times where I'll wake up in the middle of the night and just not sleep until I can write down something on a notepad to say, okay, how can I make things better?
Right. Yeah. I think that's a similar to I think that's like an artistic sort of way to approach things. It's like you're always trying to strive to be better. It's a similar, we're pretty self-deprecating. I'm usually very self-deprecating, just in terms of how can I get better? I'm never satisfied with what I'm doing right now. So I always want to, I'm always pushing to be better. And I feel like that's
exactly
similar. I'm sure it is with you. It's you're striving to find new ways to do things better and to reach more people, and it feels like a similar passion.
It's winemaking. I say it's a balance of three different drives. You need to be passionate about what you're doing. You do need a scientific element to it, but you also need to be artistic, and having a healthy balance of those. I mean, I've enjoyed wines made by very creative, artistic people with a lot of passion at what they're doing, but no scientific background, and their wines are inconsistent. And then I've had very scientifically based winemakers with no artistic skill whatsoever. And it shows. They're the cookie cutters year in, year out. Your mega factory wines aren't going to change. They're going to be consistently Meh.
Right.
Right.
Is that a term?
Yes.
Yes.
That's in the dictionary these days.
Consistently meh.
Yeah.
And you can have all the scientific and artistic drive, and if you're not passionate about what you're doing, it's going to show.
Right.
Sure.
So, well, speaking of passion, do you guys want to play another song for everybody?
Sure.
Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna do a song we wrote.
That moves fast.
Yeah. That was the first.
Now the only thing is you need Andrew jumping around like the guy from Lucky Chops.
Oh right, yeah. No.
Yeah. He does.
He's amazing.
Andy jumps around a lot. Yeah.
I have different moves. I don't quite have the hip hop dancing, but I do a lot of
headbanging.
Oh yeah, a lot of this and
yeah. Maybe some like a little bit of chicken wing play. No,
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
We the San Jose Saxophonists, one year they did I'm trying to remember the Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Yeah.
They did a cover of that, and so normally most of my buddies, we all play Barry sax for Saxmas, and I think it was the Mad Russians Christmas or something like that. But the Barrys just had this line of bum 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 bum. So we were all like this, just
Yes.
all through rehearsal, all through 2 performances in one day. And the following morning I woke up and I was like, oh, my back. And I called 3 of my friends and like, how's your back? He goes, I can't get out of bed.
Well, it was funny because after our first tour to Europe was February of last year, and I was just like destroying my body, like paying no attention to like how I hold my saxophone, like my neck is everywhere, I'm like flailing like crazy. And then after that month, my whole body was just deteriorating, like my hands were just like shot. And fortunately, I found somebody who's incredible, and she was able to like help me fix my body basically. But it was just like the actual wear and tear on your body from playing rock music is really intense. I had no idea like how like intense it is. And
That first tour was like 5, 6 shows a week, so it was like there weren't many breaks. Yeah, for a month. So tons of travel. Yeah, it's tough on the body for sure.
But then you learn then you learn eventually how to like handle your body so that you don't hurt yourself and like make it still look like you're going nuts. But it's definitely a learning curve to get into that.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially playing rock with a Barry sax, it's going to take its wear and tear on you. You don't want to wind up like Phil Collins and having to retire early because he can't.
Yeah, and that was a concern too.
Yeah, they were saying he's coming out of retirement, but the last couple of years before he retired, they were actually strapping the sticks to his wrists because he physically couldn't hold the sticks anymore.
That's scary. It's a nightmare scenario.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. Well, hey, should we dip into dedication?
Yes. Let's do it.
And it's
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take one out. Since I have 2 more glasses here, I'm gonna take one out of the decanter, and one out of the bottle. For those of you who aren't familiar with decanting wines, they're helpful with both wines, young and old. Younger wines are sometimes going to be very tight when you first open them, and the air is going to help them open up. With older wines, you can often have a little sediment. And so carefully pouring the wine out of the bottle into the decanter and then pouring the wine from the decanter to the glass is going to help remove a lot of that sediment as well. So
one glass to be decanted.
Yeah, so I'm keeping my decanted glass close to the decanter and the one straight from the bottle next to the bottle.
Great. Okay.
So dedication is our Bordeaux blend. So this is a blend of Cabernet, Merlot, Cab Franc, and Malbec. And we grow all those varietals here on the property. And what I'm chasing here is I'm not trying to express one specific varietal. Instead, let me step back. When I'm making my Cabernet, when I'm creating that blend, I want it to sing and be true to what Cabernet Sauvignon is. With dedication, I'm free to the shackles of varietal. So instead of trying to make a Cabernet with some Merlot, some Franc, and Malbec in it, I'm trying to make the best expression of our terroir up here on the mountain that I can. So I'm taking all these components that I have at my disposal, and it's a lot of trial and error. I'll be sitting in my lab, and it's sometimes you think 1 + 1 will equal 2. Sometimes 1 + 1 equals 4. Sometimes 1 + 1 equals -10.
Yeah.
What you think two wines might be compatible, you really don't know until you physically blend them and smell and taste them together. So dedication is not only the typical winemaking process, but the culmination of usually about 100+ hours of my time in the lab, creating blends and a lot of trial and error, what works and what doesn't work.
That sounds like so much fun. You're an alchemist.
Yeah. I'm gonna smell the different. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So what are you guys smelling different?
Undecanted. The decanted smells a little softer to me, and I don't try to.
When we swirl our glass, we are somewhat mimicking what a decanter can do, but just more aggressively. But the decanter has more surface area. Sorry, Paula quickly sent me a text and I can't see it.
Don't worry about it. It's all good.
Okay. Paul is also technical support, so if I've wandered off stage or if I have a bit of drool coming down my mouth, she's correcting me. So
Okay.
Thanks, Paula.
Thank you, Paul.
no, it's the undecanted just does not smell as lively. The fruit doesn't pop as much.
Right.
Right.
It's like it's softer. I guess that's the way I describe it.
I mean, it's not closed down.
Right.
You still get that vibrant black cherry, blackberry cassis, but it's almost like being decanted. It's spread out those aromas, and you can see them. This
Right.
is more a run-on sentence of aromas.
Mm-hmm.
Here, it's more subtle. It's more, you can smell the different components.
Do you decant anytime you're drinking wine? Do you always decant the bottle?
It depends. If it's a nightly basis, no, because we have a pretty hard and fast rule in our household that whoever cooks dinner doesn't do dishes.
Right.
And I love to cook, so Paula would stop speaking to me if I busted a decanter like this out every night of the week, and she had to wash it and polish it and dry it and put it away.
Right.
So from a practical standpoint, no, I don't. But if we're having, especially with an older bottle of wine, or if I open something that I've been looking forward to and it's not showing the way I anticipated it to, that's when we'll break out the decanter and see how we can really break into it and open up that wine.
And how long do you usually let it sit in the decanter?
It depends on the wine, usually a minimum of half an hour.
Yep.
It drives me crazy if you go into a nice restaurant, they say, would you like us to decant that? And they pour the whole bottle in the decanter and automatically pour half of it out
Yep.
it kind of defeats the purpose.
Right.
The other reason I don't always decant is sometimes I just like to take my time with a glass of wine. And so over time, this undecanted will catch up to where this is just sitting in the glass.
Right.
Oh, that's interesting.
But on the mouth, it'll be interesting to see a difference. I'd recommend doing the decanted first because I'm predicting the decanted will be a little softer on the mouth. I'm not saying it will be. I haven't tasted it myself yet. So let's dig in and give that a try.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Very robust. I like it.
Mm.
Fold.
You have to forgive my lack of terminology in describing wine, but I only mean the
language.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
we're missing the language here.
Yeah, but I appreciate, but
Yeah.
it tastes incredible.
It's, no, that's all good. But to me, what I'm getting, and I guess it depends on your approach of wine. There are some people who want a big, aggressive wine that's going to bash them over the head, that I am here in your mouth.
Right.
The decanted is a lot softer. It's got more presence to the mouth, whereas the undecanted really has much more aggressive mouthfeel and tannin compared to the decanted wine.
Right. Yeah, I could feel that in the undecanted. I could feel like more of a concentration of kind of flavor in terms of just like more focused in a way rather than it being more spread out. It's interesting.
Mm-hmm. Now, I like both of these, undecanted and decanted.
Yeah. I'm
It's,
sure people listening want to hear my description of my uneducated description of wine.
You do. It's genius. Yeah.
well, I was thinking about this morning. Are you guys familiar with Gordon Goodwin's Big Fat Band?
Yeah.
So I had Gordon on this show back in April, and he had sent me a vinyl press of their most recent album. And we got down to talking about that. And that album, they recorded both digital and analog.
Oh, wow.
And most of us today listen to our music digitally, whether it be a CD or an MP3 or streaming to our phone. And analog has a lot of lost depth. Or I should say, there's a lot of depth lost in digital that you see and hear in analog recordings of vinyl. And so the funny thing is I'm now regretting having sold my turntable 20, 30 years ago, because now I want to go back and listen to all these analog recordings of these great jazz albums that I replaced with CDs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think you're seeing the same difference here. It's kind of like analog versus digital.
Yeah. Yeah, I love vinyl and have a collection, and it also allows for conscious listening, right? So when we throw on Spotify or something, it can be in the background, or even when we're listening, it's just part of our phone's thing. When you throw on a record, you're most likely going to listen to that side, turn it over, listen to the other side, read the liner notes potentially, right? Like it's you feel much more connected to the music, I think, similarly to what you're talking about. Yeah.
More of an experience.
Yeah.
I miss that. I miss liner notes. I miss the time that was taken to put together something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I also listen to Tidal and Spotify, but yeah, there's some. It's I compare it to putting a fire on a fireplace, right? Like you put a record on, and there's such a resurgence in vinyl now, but it's just especially with wine, right? Especially a jazz record with wine. And if you have a fireplace, you can add that. It's so romantic. Yeah, it just feels really good, and yeah, it transports you to that thing rather than I'm just gonna throw a song on and then another song, or I'll put a playlist on. It's just a different thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Music.
I'll just put it on shuffle.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's not that experience of listening anymore, and I think that's and that you lose the art in a way when it's just kind of this like it's all in the background. Background music is great too, but it's just kind of the act of, and it's also therapeutic for the listener. So for yourself who's listening to vinyl, it's like a break for your own body and your own mind.
Right.
Because if you're listening on your phone, you're going to be on Twitter and scrolling while you're, listening to whatever you're listening to. But it's just, anyway, it's an interesting thing.
Yeah, you're not paying attention. You're not picking apart. I love listening and picking out the different parts. And sometimes I'll even go, okay, how would I arrange that?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Do you write as well?
I do some arranging for small sax ensembles. I play in my major musical outlet today is playing with the band at church, but also I, about 12 years ago, found it's not a per se alumni group, but it's former Aggie Banda and Cal Band marching band members who formed this group, but we're in our 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. And now we have some second generation where these are kids who've grown up watching their parents do this. So we call it mobile rock and roll. It's marching band instrumentation, but we play everything from Green Day to Oingo Boingo to William Ferrell. So we've toured to Cuba, we were in Japan for the Nagano Olympics.
Nice.
Russia, Germany. We were in Washington, D.C. for the 2010 4th of July parade, and marching in front of the White House. We all yelled "Wrong President" because the director pulled up "American Idiot" as we marched in front of the White House.
Nice.
Yeah. So it's it's a fun outlet, and so we sometimes do sax features with that. But yeah, so if you guys are ever looking for an 80-piece horn section, I'll hook you up.
Okay.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll do a remote video.
We could go to the White House now and play American Idiot.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, Paula, are you ready? I think it's time to announce our winner.
Ooh.
Brad Hammonds.
Brad, you already got yours.
What? I got another set?
Give me 1 second. I'm going to try to share my screen here.
Okay.
And
Paul, that's too small for me, so if you'll do the honors.
so first of all, we wanted to thank Gabriel-Glas for providing the decanters and stemware to Andrew and Brad and to us, and also for providing our virtual door prize. And just a little plug. If you would like to order Gabriel-Glas, the website, I've just put it up on the screen there, gabrielglasinternational.com, glass with only one S. It's the German spelling, I've been informed. And use the code SHIPME. And then also for us, if you're joining us and haven't tried Schweiger wine. Yes?
Paul, the SHIPME code gets some free shipping anywhere in the United States.
Ooh, nice.
On the glassware.
Okay, there you go.
There you go.
And then also, if you haven't tried our Schweiger wines, we are the schweigervineyards.com is our website. Anything with 6 or more bottles, you'll get a 20% discount and $10 flat shipping rate, which is a great deal right now. And use the code BRASSAGAINST for that one.
Awesome.
Rock.
And drum roll, please. And the winner today is Suzanne Hoffman. Congratulations.
Hey!
So you're receiving Gabriel-Glas Alpha Decanter and a stemware set to enjoy. So congratulations to Suzanne.
Congratulations, Suzanne.
Congratulations, Suzanne.
And Brad and Andrew, thank you for joining me today. Paula,
Thank you so much.
were there any questions that anybody had that we want to throw out?
I did not see any questions, so if anybody wants to chime in with something, I'm happy to pass those on to the guys. Otherwise, Suzanne says, thanks, wow. So that's
Congrats, Suzanne.
Congrats,
fun
Suzanne.
thing.
Yeah.
Enjoy the
I think if Suzanne is the same person I'm thinking of, Suzanne Hoffman wrote an amazing book about the wine families of Italy called Labor of Love.
Hmm.
So you guys should check that book out. I'm assuming that's the same Suzanne. Suzanne, if you can still hear me, I'd love for you. Are you the same Suzanne Hoffman?
Yes, that is the same Suzanne.
Wow.
Oh, cool.
So,
We have a famous author with us.
Hey, Suzanne.
Wow.
yeah, so she and Danny will be enjoying those glasses, and she
Blushing.
said she's blushing right now. So,
Oh,
but it is a great book. Check it out.
Yeah.
Labor of Love by Suzanne Hoffman.
Thanks for watching, Suzanne.
yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, you guys want to play us on our way out to Friday evening?
Sure.
Yeah, do you want to do the
Awesome. Well, hey, everybody at home, while they're getting set, thank you for tuning in today. And stay safe, stay healthy. Remember to keep practicing social distancing and keep your masks on.
Thanks for having us, Andy.
Thanks.
Thank you for joining Thank you, guys. Yeah, I always feel bad. It's like, okay, it sounded one hand clapping.
Yeah.
Everybody's clapping at home, trust me.
Yeah. Thank you for having us, Andy.
Thanks so
Thank
much,
you.
Andy.
Cheers. Have a wonderful day. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
Thanks for watching.